maybe you can look it back up, the plan of how to do college basketball without a podcast and be very big at it. The people.
Stores, Connecticut is in driving distance. I can probably get Gino. I don't think I ever would have got Coach K. I think I could get Gino. So I'm going to go that way.
Okay. All right. So Gino and Rico, let's hear that interview.
Well, that might be true for Rico, but we do have Coach K on Zero Blog 30, and we also have 4 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1, Coach K sits down with Captain Cons to talk about West Point, leadership, basketball, but most importantly, Cons' undying love for the winningest coach of all time.
Where did that come from? Undying love.
Oh, don't
more like
give
respect
me
and
that. You were
admiration.
I saw your face during the interview.
You were about to come.
Right.
Yeah, you
I was
almost
say
came.
Happy little puppy.
Whenever he pops on the scene, you smile, and so, but that's okay. You don't have to downplay it. You're allowed to have heroes too. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at WhistlePig. WhistlePig is the best bourbon, the best rye, the best syrup, the best looking stuff. They got the best advertising. They got the best bottles. They got the best everything. And if you want to try the best, you have to go with WhistlePig because they're always keeping it 100. WhistlePig has matched their piggyback rye, which we've talked about for months, with their beautiful, beautiful, and delicious, unbelievably delicious piggyback 100% proof bourbon whiskey. The whole squad was here this weekend. We were watching some games. We were hanging out, watching the fights. And you know what everybody had in their glass? That's right, my friend. It's WhistlePig, because we had some in the office and everybody likes it, so we were drinking it down. Some of us were drinking the 100% rye because it's the savory side of whiskey. Others were drinking the piggyback 100% proof bourbon. It's the sweeter side of the whiskey, but you can't have a bar at your house or at your office without one. We enjoy ours in a little bit of a cocktail. I'm more of an old-fashioned kind of guy. And occasionally, I'll just mix it up. I have a little bit of grapefruit juice and drop like a shot of WhistlePig in there, and it's also delicious. You should try it yourself. Come up with a cocktail, share it with me, Cons, or Kate. We'd love to see yours and critique it. I need some new, fresh ideas for my drinks. You can go get your bottle of WhistlePig at shop.whistlepigwhiskey.com or at a local retailer. Round number 2, an aggressively stupid couple tried to sell some nuclear secrets to China. The reason why they gave the judge will make your eyes roll to the back of your skull, maybe even further back than anybody's ever rolled their eyes before, I would say. Round number 3, the Iranian people are showing unreal bravery and screaming in the face of their government while demanding liberty, freedom, and their inalienable rights. We won't be able to encapsulate their bravery, but we're sure as shit gonna try to. Round number 4, Kate gave birth in a hospital like a nerd. A cat put Kate's birthing story to shame by giving birth in the most badass place possible. Folks, this story will get your motor running.
Whoa.
Exactly
Coach
right.
K to kitten birth. What an episode.
Exactly right.
My goodness.
But before we get started with the show and Coach K's interview, we have some things that we want to update you about. Last week on Friday, we told you that we were going to go down to the Barstool Invitational, and one of the things that we were going to concentrate is on one of these VFWs that are right outside of Philadelphia. What happened there, Kate?
Yeah, they flooded during Hurricane Ida last year, and they were just in the hole so bad it looked like they were going to lose their spot. And it was actually a really active VFW that had veterans. They still had Korean War veterans going there. I met some of the guys post 9/11, a guy who served in the same area near me who was a combat engineer. Just tons of volunteerism, really active. It was just a really great hub on the Schuylkill River outside Philly, like just an awesome spot too. And it just was completely wiped out. So GoFundMe, I was like, everyone's donated out right now. And it's like not a thing on anybody else, but like you do get tired of like there's just so much need all over right now.
Right.
That it's a lot to ask people. So I felt bad even asking people to donate. I shouldn't have been surprised, but I was blown away. We, as of now, have $44,287 contributed by just people like you listening out there. Thank you so much. And Dave is matching a huge chunk of that. Like it's just going to be basically people saved this VFW, which is just absolutely amazing. After especially having met the vets and everything there, I just know how truly important it is. Some people donated. Bill Doherty donated $2,500 in memory of his dad. Another VFW donated $1,000. People were saying, I used to go there with my dad before he passed away, or growing up. It was like a community staple for us. We didn't have any vets, but we loved going there. And it also sparked an interesting conversation. in the comments, people were like, well, dang, these places sound awesome. I would love to go. And it's like, you can. Like anybody,
Sure can.
You don't have to be like a combat veteran or a veteran or like.
And a lot of them are modernizing too. Like I went to
Yeah.
one in Texas recently where they even had like 3-cheat type products, like in a vending machine that you could go there and just rip
Yeah,
some
they're,
vapes.
they're doing considerable efforts across the country to try to attract those post 9/11 veterans, because as we've talked about, and even the whole reason, you know, the genesis of Zero Block 30 was to create the online VFW for post 9/11 vets, because for whatever reason we don't necessarily always feel welcome at those VFWs, those American Legions. It's like, oh, that's where your uncle or your dad or your grandfather hang out, and that's just not the case.
But just super cool. And like 2020, another Barstool show, Kirk Minahan show, they donated over $30,000 to VFW Post 8006 in Florence, Massachusetts. And it's just really cool that Barstool has a hand in helping these places because they are worth saving.
Yeah, when we ask the Barstool community for
It's
anything
amazing.
veteran related, they are always down
Yeah.
to do that. All right, let's get into Cons' interview with Coach K. Here it is. It took a long time to set up. It's a hard interview to get. Shout out to Cons for actually pulling it down, my man. Good job.
Thank you.
Let's listen to it. Here it is.
All right, joining us now on Zero Blog 30, a gentleman whose resume is too long to list out here, so I'm not going to bother. West Point class of, I actually don't know if you want me to say it or not, so
Yeah,
I won't.
I do. Yeah.
West Point class of 1969. That's Coach
That's the
Mike
one.
Krzyzewski.
Best of the line. You better say it.
Oh, there you go. I appreciate that pride in your class motto there, Coach. But thank you very much for joining the show. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. No, it's an honor to be on, and for me, the military, all the people who serve, the men and women who serve and have served, are really extraordinary people, and it's so good that you have this podcast where so many of them listen in. But for me, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach. Let's start with West Point, though. So I was recently watching an Army football game, and they have the commercials for West Point, and it's, come to West Point and we'll train you to be a leader of tomorrow. And they flash to a lot of West Point grads who have accomplished many things in history. And it's Eisenhower, it's Buzz Aldrin, it's Ulysses S. Grant, and then it's Coach Mike Krzyzewski, this scrappy kid from Chicago who decided to come play for a young coach named Knight. What's it like being mentioned alongside those amazing names in history?
Well, I guess they have to have somebody from sport. The others are really heroes and have shown their mettle in combat and putting their lives on the line. That's not what, even in my short 5-year career, I was never in combat. So I've always really admired those men and women who have been in combat, but to be mentioned with those people in leadership is obviously quite an honor, and it's a nice bus to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. Alongside those names and faces, and you mentioned your pride in your class and your pride in the service that you gave to this country. Almost every game, seemingly, when you're on TV, they flash to your picture from your time at West Point, and they talk about, coming from West Point, coaching an Army, being in the Army. What's something that you took from West Point and your time in the Army that you would then impress upon your players every year thereafter?
Well, the podcast isn't long enough for me to talk about all those things, really, and I'm not fooling around. Really, West Point was... and my 5 years in the military as a second lieutenant, and captain really served as an incredible foundation of leadership. I mean, there's no greater leadership school in the world than West Point. And then to go into the Army afterwards, I learned so much there. But I also learned to keep learning, to keep adapting, to keep getting better, that resilience was expected. It wasn't, oh boy, that's great. No. You're supposed to do that. The phrase that I use all the time is at West Point, failure was never a destination. You get knocked down, get up, but when you get up, understand you don't necessarily have to get up alone. maybe the thing you're trying to do, you need to have a team to do it. And so it's not just the individual stuff you learn at the academy, it's the collective stuff that you learn. And then if you put resilient, passionate, committed people together for a good cause, wow, wow, and that's all comes from West Point and being in the Army.
And you touched a little bit there on evolution, and as you know, great leaders evolve with time. And when you came into the game of coaching basketball, when you did, and through that entire career, the game has changed. The players have changed. How did you evolve as a coach and a leader dealing with all the changes over the last almost 50 years?
Well, you have to keep getting better, and I think I have gotten better. And as a teacher, I still teach. I'm a professor at our Fuqua School of Business. I do a lot of public speaking for the Washington Speakers Bureau. I learned that you have to keep evolving, to be a lifelong learner. And a huge thing is adapting to the culture that you're in at that time, not the one that you were in 5 years ago. How do you communicate? How do you dress? The people that you're leading, like for me, I'm 75. Last year, I coached 2 kids who were starters who were 18. All right, like that I can communicate with them, and they could communicate with me. And I think by adapting like that, it keeps you young too, and you can learn from the people you lead, not just teach the people that you lead. And then hopefully you find common ground, a common cause, and then you go for it.
Absolutely. And that adapting. Recently, I was watching the Redeem Team documentary about your time taking over USA Basketball, and specifically the 2008 Olympics. And you got to adapt from college players to the pros. And I kind of, the parallel I made was a young lieutenant walking into a seasoned platoon of experienced soldiers. So, what were the challenges walking into coaching a team? And you had experience with pros before, but not at the head coaching level, to my knowledge. So what was it like walking in to the best players on the planet coming from the college game?
Yeah, well, it's exciting and intimidating all at the same time, and you have to, it's important to recognize who you're talking to. So I wasn't talking to 18 to 21-year-olds who had not proven themselves. These guys had proven themselves, but they hadn't proven themselves on that stage, in that environment. And they were accustomed to being the guy. You had a team of the guys. How can we become the team where all the guys get together? And so you have to find common ground. And to be with all of my U.S. teams, we won 3 Olympics and 2 World Championships. And with all of them, the military for us became a huge example for our team because of teaching selfless service.
Right.
And so we had our team do quite a bit with the military all the time, and where they could feel. To me, the thing about the military is they not only hear and see, they feel what they do. They own it. They own it. And that was the essential ingredient we needed to get for our team, not just to hear and see, but to feel. And the military helped us immensely in order to do that.
Wow. I mean, that's extremely powerful. Did you feel any sort of added responsibility coaching, with USA across the front of your chest as opposed to Duke or Army?
Oh, absolutely. The opportunity is immense. The pressure is pretty high too, because you're not only expected to win, you're expected to represent as you travel, as you play, as you warm up the greatest country in the world. And so again, immense opportunity, but yeah, you're looking at everything really close, and then if you don't have the team looking as closely to that, you're not going to be good. And I can say that our guys did also. Once we developed a culture,
Right.
and we didn't just develop a team. And a culture is based on values. The military has, the Army has its values. We had ours, and many of them are the same. But we also had standards about how we were going to live. And what that gives you with standards and values, it gives you a common ground, not just a common objective. Like, we want to win the gold medal. Okay, that's a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only thing that binds us, that bonds us? And but if we have values and standards, that will help us be one in accomplishing that goal.
Absolutely. And you mentioned values and standards. You need good leaders to uphold those values and standards. We know about Kobe Bryant. Obviously, the guy was a tremendous, tremendous leader. Were there any other players on that team that we might not know, but were actually very strong leaders for you?
Oh, yeah. LeBron James is an outstanding leader. Chris Paul, outstanding on the Redeem team. Jason Kidd, who was towards the end of his career, and now he's the Dallas Mavericks head coach. Just really, really smart. So, yeah, leadership is not singular. Where there's just one leader. It's plural, and especially the larger the organization, the more leaders you're going to need at different tiers. The military is the best example of that. Yeah, I'm going to be a better better platoon leader if I have great squad leaders. I'm going to be a better company commander if I have great platoon leaders, but that the leadership at any tier is as important from one tier to another. It's important. The level of importance is the same, even though the rank of the leader is not the same. And if you can get that in, I think the military does an amazing job of that. If you can get that in an organization, you're going to have a really good organization, because you're going to take care of the situations in the moment they need to be taken care of, instead of passing it along to that's not my level, or that's not my, all right, that's not your team either then. Like you have to own it. You have to own it. And tiered leadership is huge in that regard.
That's a really good point. I mean, but then on the flip side of that, and maybe you're walking away at a time that, is good or bad, I don't know, but the game has evolved with NIL, with social media, where there's so much about the individual. So is any part of you, kind of happy that you don't have to deal with any of that? Or do you think you would have continued to evolve?
Well, you would have to continue to adapt and evolve. I'm happy in my decision because it was time to make that decision. When I talked, John Shire was my associate head coach. He's now the head coach. I talked to him a lot about my 47 years as a coach and different things. But the one thing he knows more about than I do is NIL. And I said, the reason you know more about it is because you live it. You live it every day. Thank God I don't have to live that, but if I was in it, I'd have to figure it out. How do you develop camaraderie, the good teamwork and whatever based on that? And also, how do you hold people accountable now, knowing that they're getting something before they used to get it, and also that they have the ability to leave you if you hold them. You can be a little bit afraid of holding accountable because you're afraid that they won't be able to take what you are holding them accountable for.
Right. You got to know where that line is and kind of take it right to that
but you
line.
still have to hold them accountable.
Right.
And to me, those are the foundation is not as sturdy anymore. there's a lot of there can be quicksand there.
Yeah, certainly. Well, hopefully, Coach Shire can
No, he'll
figure
do a
that
great
out.
job. John
Mhm.
is John's terrific, and he's he's in his he's 35. He's even more naturally in that world.
Mm-hmm.
I would be in that world too, but wouldn't be as natural. I just have to make sure that it became that way for me, and that's part of a leader adapting and not using this is the way we used to do it.
Right.
This is all those phrases that I hate.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm just going to wrap up here with a few quick questions, Coach.
Yeah.
If Coach Allen at Army gave you a call, I know you're retired, but he said, "Hey, Coach, I got a spot for you on my bench." Would you go back to Army as an assistant and help Coach Allen there?
The pay grade's too.
All right.
But Jimmy and I are good friends, and at different times during the year, I'll text or call to wish him the best. We're always.
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job with the program. Really happy with his leadership there. I once read that you never really got yelled at as a plebe because none of the upperclassmen could pronounce your name on your name tape. Is that true?
No, I got yelled at a lot because they couldn't pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
Although sometimes it worked where I was doing as all plebes do, something idiotic, and was stopped, and the upperclassmen would look at my name tag and forget that I did something idiotic and say, "What the hell is that?" And I said, "Sir, that's my name. That's your name. Tell me, say your name." And then I'd say and say, "All right, get the hell out of here." So it did work sometimes. It did work sometimes.
That's good. All right, last thing here. One of your best players ever, indisputed one of your best players ever, Jay Williams. Williams is from Plainfield, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I am from Plainfield, New Jersey. So are you comfortable putting me on your top 2 list of most impressive people from Plainfield, New Jersey?
People-wise, but just remember, God did not create everyone equal on the basketball court. So
I'll defer to Jay on the basketball court, certainly. Absolutely. Okay.
Well, you're assuming that I don't know anyone else from Plainfield.
That is my assumption. So hopefully you don't know too many folks from Plainfield, and then I can remain on the list.
Well, I will tell you this: Jason was a 2-time National Player of the Year, national champion, 2nd pick in the NBA draft. But the most impressive thing that he's done, you talk about resiliency, the injury that he sustained, which stopped his career, and took so long to recover from. Where he is at today, and 3 beautiful children, wife, and a career, that's as good as an example of resiliency as you can get, because of how much you've lost and the age that you lost it at, and then where he has become. So you going number 2 on that list, I don't know you as well. I hopefully, the gap isn't
sure
big between 1 and 2.
Well, I'll do my best to make you proud, Coach.
Okay.
No, I mean, and I'm sorry, I'll leave you with this. That has to be even more fulfilling for you as a coach to see the type of man that he is, and all your former players, the type of men that they are, regardless of their accomplishments on a basketball court, the types of people they are.
Yeah, and he and I are great friends. And I have immense respect, how proud I am of how he's done this. It's really amazing, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, Coach, thank you so much for your time. Tomorrow's Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. Congratulations on such a tremendous career, and I'm sure you're going to continue to do great things, and we appreciate you taking time to chat with us today.
All right. And best of luck with your show. I'm glad it's been on for so long. And again, to all the people who have served and are serving, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart and my family's hearts.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Coach.
Take care.
Yeah, just thanks so much to Coach K for giving me the amount of time that he gave, just the fact that he gave me any time, because as you said, he's a very difficult man to pin down. He doesn't really give a lot of interviews.
I mean, imagine the interviews that he gets on a daily, yearly basis.
Yeah.
Right.
Tens of thousands, I would imagine.
And also, shout out to some folks behind the scenes who were extremely helpful. Chris Patola, John Jackson there at Duke were very helpful in convincing, I guess maybe is a good word, Coach K to have a conversation with me. But I just unbelievable that he was able to do that for us, and very, very,
very
thankful.
cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
I totally agree. Let's move on to round number 2. Today's show is also brought to you by our good friends at Simplisafe. The holidays are coming up. Property crimes and burglaries are all over the place. They got spiked packages. They're coming to your doors. We got porch pirates. We got people watching your Amazon delivery. We got people all over the place that want to do nefarious things to you. But our friends at Simplisafe Home Security are going to be offering you 50% off their award-winning security system. You say, chaps, usually if it's an ad read, you got 10%, 20%, never 50%. Well, you guys are absolutely wrong. Order your Simplisafe for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind this holiday season. I have it in my house. There's a little box that I have in my room, another one by my front door, and it makes my family feel safe. Even if I'm out of town like I am right now in New York, I can log in, I can see my family doing whatever, I can see my backyard, I can see all that stuff. You're going to want to, too, to protect your home this holiday season. Don't miss your chance for massive savings on my personal favorite security system. Get 50% off new systems at simplisafe.com/ZBT. This is their biggest discount of the year. That's simplisafe.com/ZBT. There is no safe like Simplisafe. This is the nuclear couple story. We've talked about them a couple months back. You might remember the story. Well, they've been convicted. There's more information that come out, and it is absolutely wild. Right, Catherine?
All we really knew last time is that a Navy engineer, he had been trying to sell military secrets to a foreign country, but little did he know he was actually selling them straight back to the FBI.
Which has got to be the assumption. I mean, if you're on Facebook Marketplace selling nuclear secrets, you got to just assume that's the FBI.
Yeah, so we knew that part, but now more details have come out as the case has finally ended. The trial just ended, and the end of that trial was like, boy, these people, like on my head, I said to you guys, I was like, this is one of the most bizarre couple stories I've read in a minute.
And I really believe that if you're going to sell nuclear secrets, if you think you could do that, unless you're like doesn't really matter where you come from. If you think you could do that, to me, that automatically qualifies you as stupid.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they were going to get a lighter sentence, but their defense of themselves was so bizarre that they made it worse. So this Navy engineer who tried to sell military secrets to a foreign country was sentenced Wednesday to more than 19 years in prison. And his wife, he's the one who did it, but his wife got 22 years for aiding his plans and then attempting to hide her role. Jonathan Tobe, is this Toby?
Yeah, I think it's Tobe.
Toby, I'll say Tobe. Jonathan Toby, a civilian nuclear engineer with top secret security clearance, and Diana Toby, a private school teacher in Annapolis, admitted they tried to sell restricted data about nuclear propulsion systems on subs to a foreign country.
See, listen to those jobs. You would think smart people. A civilian nuclear engineer with a top secret security clearance. You're working that job. You're not poor.
No, and also they're not just handing out top secret security clearances at Walmart.
And a private school teacher in her hometown of Annapolis, she's incredibly smart too.
Yeah, so back in 2021, 2021 some would say, he was providing thousands of documents to undercover FBI agents who were posing as reps of a foreign nation. They haven't disclosed what nation. I would guess China if I was guessing.
Yeah, most of the article said China, so I think we'll go with that.
But the restricted data, he got some of the most secure and sensitive info about our nuclear fleet, including the inner workings of our $3 billion state-of-the-art attack sub. He was giving those to them.
Yeah, that's the attack sub that's not even done yet. Like,
Right.
it's the most state-of-the-art submarine legitimately in the world.
And info that could seriously hurt our nation and our troops, like
Right.
genuinely.
Yeah.
So U.S. District Judge Gina M. Groh called the Tobys confessed traitors who committed horrible acts against this nation. Here's the messiest part of all. Though Jonathan's position gave him access to the sensitive data, Diana's sentence was longer because a judge found that she obstructed justice and was not entitled to a reduction in her prison term for accepting responsibility. Diana admitted she acted as a lookout for 3 dead drops. How cool do you think this couple felt when they were doing the dead drops?
They're like Mr. and
Late
Mrs.
at
Smith
night?
doing this.
I don't know what it is. I don't really know what a dead drop. But I gotta do one.
But it's
Yeah.
like in the
I need to do a
you've
dead
seen it-
drop at
you've
some
seen-
point.
No, you know what it is. You've seen it in movies
Oh,
when they're walking
yeah,
by each
yeah.
other and
Yes.
they hand off a suitcase.
Like
Or
on
when-
Shooter.
Yes, or when they leave something underneath a park bench. That's a dead drop. So this
I need to do that.
boring ass suburban couple is doing dead drops in somewhere outside DC. One was in left behind data cards inside a pack of gum. Another in an adhesive bandage wrapper, and then another inside half of a peanut butter sandwich.
Now, are we sure that this is nefarious? Maybe they just like geocaching.
Thought they were geocaching.
Yeah.
But, at one dead drop, the indictment says that the Tobys left behind a message saying he and his wife were prepared to flee the United States. We have cash and passports set aside.
And
So
buddy,
they
that
knew they were
establishes
doing wrong.
premeditation.
Yeah, they knew they were doing something wrong. The part that really genuinely sucks to me, they have 2 sons,
Yes.
ages 12 and 16. How the fuck do you do that if you have kids?
Right? Like, okay, we're all set to
How the
flee the
fuck?
country. What are you doing with these kids? What are you
Well,
telling them
this
you're
is
going to do?
why they said it was worth the risk for them. Defense lawyers said the Tobys, who have 2 sons, 12 and 16, were seeking to leave the U.S. because they were opposed to President Donald Trump.
That's a 4-year-old's answer.
Yeah. Seriously.
What?
That's what a
That's
4-year-old
the part
tells
that I
you.
thought this was worth
Listen,
telling on
we'll
the
probably
show.
get a real lib freaking judge and we'll be all right.
Like you're that.
What?
Yeah.
An FBI search of the Annapolis home turned up passports for the children, thousands in cash, shredded documents, and a go bag containing a flash drive and latex gloves. This is the excuse from Jonathan saying, "I believed that my family was in dire threat."
Is there another kind?
Yeah, he's saying we had this stuff ready to go, not because we were committing treason. He's saying they had all these to-go bags of money and passports because democracy itself was on the verge of collapse, and that sort of catastrophic thinking overwhelmed me.
To me, I think that's a plausible defense. I don't think it's accurate, but that's a plausible defense. The wife's, on the other hand, she doesn't have that. Like, I don't think she has that layer of a remotely good story. Not saying that would pass the mustard by any means, but at least it sounds like plausible. Like that you if you really had that opinion and you were crazy, like you would think that this could
But
actually
the court
happen.
found that he's not crazy. The judge knew he wasn't crazy.
Right.
And she was able to be like,
Just like 99%
okay,
of people who think that insanity is a great thing to plea, it doesn't work.
No, but there are a lot of people in this country who have created these perceptions for themselves in their head that the country is a certain way, and they're convinced of it, and you can't tell them otherwise. So I get what you're saying.
I would say that that's like 90% of America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Diana told the judge she regretted her catastrophic decision. I should have followed my instinct and tried to talk my husband out of this plan. But then my family's difficulties continued. My depression was at an all-time high. I felt like this country's political situation was dire. I didn't just fail to talk him out of it. I actually participated in helping, and I wanted him to succeed. At the time, I absurdly thought it was a way out of these struggles. Selling crazy nuclear secrets to like China or whatever was your way out of the struggle. I don't believe any of this at all.
That's not like stripping to
And-
get some extra
Yeah.
income.
Also,
They're
too,
gonna start an
like,
OnlyFans or
Right.
something.
she is trying to act super innocent and be like, I
Right.
tried to talk him out of it, but at the end of the day, you have to support your family.
Little
Right,
woe,
we're so
No,
overwhelmed.
you
little
don't.
woe is me head
Yeah.
ass.
That and in the end, the judge kind of alludes that like she thinks that it was actually Diana driving the bus on this thing anyway.
It could
Tobes-
be, as I'll tell you now, as a married man now, I could see how that could happen. You just don't want to rock the boat at home, so you're like, yep, whatever you say.
The Tobys first pleaded guilty in February, but grow throughout those agreements with prosecutors, calling them woefully insufficient. That was initially 12.5 to 17.5 years in prison and just 3 years in prison for Diana. After pleading guilty,
I think that we need to really stress that part, that Diana was going to get 3 years under the plea agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
So after pleading guilty under revised terms in September, Diana Toby faced at least 12.5 years and Jonathan longer. But the judge ended up sentencing Diana to 21 years and 10 months, enhancing the penalty because it turned out Diana was trying to reach her husband via handwritten letter she wrote from jail, urging him to plead guilty and take all the blame to create a cover story so that it looked like she had nothing to do with the plan. So that's pretty nefarious shit. I just thought the defense of like, we were afraid of Trump and the country, like, and that's why we contacted China to sell them billions.
And buddy,
of
this
dollars
all
of
happened
it.
in 2021. He wasn't even the president. Like,
That's the point.
Biden
That's
was
a
in office.
great point.
Like
That's a
Biden,
fantastic
like how is
point.
he destroying it if Biden
Yeah.
was the president?
There goes
at
your
the
whole
time?
defense.
Right.
I
and-
just thought that was super bizarre, and it's one of those like I would just love to be a fly on the wall. Part of me just loves the idea of a bored suburban couple getting tapped by China and being like, "We should fuck." Like,
Well, this isn't a bored just suburban couple. This is like a nuclear engineer.
Well, I'm just saying.
I know what
Right,
you're
right,
saying,
right.
though. You're
Hold on,
absolutely
Mike.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
This is
Just going
probably
to the
too much.
PTA
We
meetings and
we
such.
can cross this out, but I bet you after like each drop, after they left the peanut butter sandwich with the hard drive in it under the bench, I bet the sex was amazing.
Oh yeah,
those initial
your
moments-
post-treason sex,
Oh,
Fuck,
buddy.
buddy.
I
Maybe
don't
they were
agree
in-
with treason, but I
Hell
will say,
yeah.
Maybe they were in couples therapy and the therapist suggested to do something
Commit
outside
treason
their
again.
Spice
norm.
it up
So
a
they're
little
like, you
bit.
know what? Treason, that's not
Treason.
something we normally do.
Most
Yeah.
people try face sitting. They wanted to do a little bit
Treason.
of nuclear engineering
Hey,
selling that
marriage
stuff.
is tough.
I wanted to say this because the judge throwing out the plea is a big deal. That doesn't happen very often whenever the prosecutor and the defense have a plea agreement and one has already pled guilty. Typically, the judge is bound and will take that even if they don't
Yeah.
agree with it. But this situation is different, and I'm going to use it as a caveat to tell you guys about my greatest hobby that I have right now.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
what?
I am addicted to watching the sentencing of different, like, terrible type of criminals, like mass shooters, murderers, people that abuse their kids.
Alex just showed me a video of the mass shooter at maybe Parkland or somewhere,
Yes.
and all the families coming and
That's
talking.
the one I wanted to tell you
Yeah.
about because the plea agreements that she's given here, it was going to be 3 years and now it's 20 years. The most insane one that I've ever seen was the Parkland shooter, and that's the reason why I brought it up, because he didn't show any remorse, and somehow the jury came back with a non-death penalty. If you're not going to do death penalty for that kid, just fucking get rid of it, like altogether. If that guy killing multiple children didn't get the death penalty, who the fuck is going to? But that's not the point. The judge in that life sentence that she gave him a shit ton of life sentences also said not only will he be serving multiple life sentences, but he's not allowed to have commissary for the rest of his life. Whoa. So any type of money that came in goes straight to the victims, and he has to eat only prison gruel for the rest of his natural life.
So
I'm okay.
I
with that.
agree
Yeah,
with
same.
you in saying that if that doesn't deserve the death penalty, what does? But I've never been to maximum security prison. Hopefully I never have to go there. But doesn't it seem that just living out the rest of your days in a maximum security prison, constantly looking over your shoulder, might be a worse punishment
I don't
than
think-
death?
I don't think so.
Looking at you now, I feel like you in a maximum security prison would be a real Ted Lasso situation. I feel like you would warm their hearts. They would stop cussing.
Gather around, everyone.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about the
Yeah,
time that
I
I
feel like
interviewed
that'd be-
Coach K.
I'd have a believe sign above my cell that I hit
Yeah, I
before I went out
feel
for
like-
my hour outside.
But think
Yeah.
about
think
the
you do
level
well.
of stress. Like I understand. Like
Yeah.
if you have life in prison, you get like 1, maybe 2 appeals. If you get death penalty, you're doing 7. So if you're coming in and you are sitting in the prison in the courtroom every day, and you think that this judge might be the one that overturns my death penalty, not going to happen. This one does it. Not. I think it would be torturous to go through that. And I think even though I'm a pretty softy, I think that guy deserves to be tortured.
I agree. I agree. He should not get any sort of reprieve from our justice system in any way, shape, or form. And the last thing I'll say about old Diana and Jonathan here, do you think they thought about the downstream implications of what they were doing, or they were just looking at very myopically and saying, all right, we need this money and we're going to sell these secrets, not realizing, oh, if we actually go through with this, it could ultimately harm a bunch of Americans down the line?
Dude, I think they did, because unless they just are completely devoid of any type of conscience.
Right.
Because even if you go into, like, I don't know if you guys did this. I definitely did it. My mom's purse whenever I was younger.
Yeah.
There'd be, like, coins that were loose in there. I would grab up some of those coins, shove them in my pocket, and hope that I could go up to that big green machine in elementary school and
Yeah.
rip out a brand new pencil that smelled delicious and stun on everybody in my classes. But when I got to lunch, by the time I was in lunch with my 2 new pencils in my pocket, I was like, fuck, what if my mom finds out that I stole money from her
Yeah,
purse?
and that guilt just riddles you.
Even a pencil. When we're talking nuclear secrets,
Yeah.
that guilt and the fear must be in you, because you know if you get caught, you're fucked.
Well, I mean, that's why they had all their shit ready to go, and they were
Right.
and the last drop up, they're like, "Get us out of here now!" And now they're in prison.
All right, let's move on to round number 3. We're going to talk a little bit about Iran, but before we get started with this, I want to remind some people some of the situations that these Iranians are in right now, because they are living under Sharia law, and they have for a long period of time. If you don't remember in Iran and you don't know the history of Iran, in the 1970s, Iran is not like it is today. It was a very liberal society, and I'm using that term loosely, but women were allowed to walk around with their heads uncovered. They were allowed to drive. They had jobs. They could go to the mall and do shopping and things like that. Now with the new, or not really new, but the last 50 years, that is not the case. They have gone back to Sharia law, and some of these punishments that you can get if you do what we would consider small things here in the United States, you can end up getting your hands chopped off, your feet chopped off. You can end up being flogged or caned in the middle of the street. You can end up being killed and have your head cut off. There's all kinds of different ways that they could really kill you under Islamic law. With that being said, 14,000 people to 15,000 people are currently incarcerated, and we're going to tell you about some of the internet rumors and some of the actual things that are going on here. But the first thing that we're going to do is give you a background by talking about some of these professors. Kate, if you could walk us through that news story, that would be great.
This whole topic, though, we've covered it on ZBT before, but we put it on the sheet today because this morning chaps called me around 9:30, and I was like, did you see what's going on? They're gonna put 15,000 people to death. 15,000 people to death. I was like riled up. I was like, oh my God, what do we do? What do we say? And he's like, where did you see that? And I said, I follow Viola Davis on Instagram, the award-winning actress, and I had seen it on hers. I had seen it across other celebrities posting on their Instagrams, and it was this image of a woman holding up an Iranian flag with makeup looking like blood going down her face, and it says Iran sentences 15,000 protesters to death as a hard lesson for all rebels. And then all the celebrities, they all had the same message. It was like a copy and paste that had been expanding and sharing. Tag news outlets, tag politicians, state and local. And then they shared the story from Newsweek that was making the rounds. And I completely wholeheartedly, I was like, holy fuck, they're gonna kill 15,000 people. How are they allowed? And one, it's fucking horrible, but kick them out of the World Cup. What else can we do?
Right.
I was freaking out. So that's why this is we covered anyway, but why this is on the sheet. There's a lot of information going around that so this was the story by Newsweek. After numerous calls for harsh punishments in recent days, the Iranian parliament on Tuesday voted overwhelmingly in favor of death penalty for protesters. Iran has been experiencing unprecedented levels of protests and civil unrest since the death of Mahsa Amini on September 16th. And we covered her death. She didn't have a headscarf on. The morality police took her to a relearning center where they basically fuck with you until they break your spirit. And they ended up killing her there. And there was a huge uprising. So many more have died since then. Iranian lawmakers have in recent days called for strict punishments for the protesters who've been arrested. On Monday, CNN reported that a letter signed by 227 members of the parliament urged that the protesters be given harsh punishment that would serve as a good lesson and in the shortest time possible. On Tuesday, they did just that, voting to impose the death penalty on all protesters in custody as a hard lesson for the rebels. The majority in favor was 227 out of 290. So I was reading that and I was like, holy fuck, so they really did. They really did. What is the full story here? Are they executing 15,000 people very shortly?
So
what's
the
happening?
272 of 290, that they wanted to enforce the eye for an eye justice system that they have. That doesn't necessarily mean death. There's 20 people right now that are at risk of being executed. And I'm not saying those rest of the 15,000 aren't at risk of doing it, but right now they're not charged with death. And I think that that's important context because it's sort of like a very different version of the Starbucks message that once that message goes out, that's what people are going to think and see. I am under the belief that even if a super awful thing like what's happening in Iran, people need to know accurate details so they can have an accurate assessment. And all of these things, even if it's not the death penalty, arresting 15,000 people continuously, I mean, if you pay attention to social media, any news on social media, it's women in the middle of the street that are pulling their headscarves off and yelling in the face of the clerics. It's people that are brothers and sisters that are seeing their sisters who are protesting unbelievably bravery, and they are going out and attacking the clerics who are trying to get their sister. They are protecting each other.
Attacking the clerics. Oh, they're attacking the clerics.
The brothers
are
are attacking the clerics. They're getting everybody off.
Men and women even men are standing up for these women.
Right, and some famous men in there. But one of the things that I told you about researching this product is our subject is that there are so many articles about this, and almost all of them highlighted the men way more than the women.
Yeah.
And to me, this revolution is all about women. It has nothing to do with the men. It's all about the women. And the women are the ones that are primarily putting themselves at risk, because the men under Sharia law do not get punished nearly as harshly as the women do, because they look at them as a subjugated class. So, I mean, it's a fucked up situation.
The situation's like absolutely terrible. One protester that was sentenced to death today was for setting fire to a government building. Who knows? It's tough to know exactly what's going on, because the misinformation coming from Iran themselves is so
what they want the
confusing.
Rest of the world
what
to
they want the rest of the world to say. More than 2,000 people have already been charged, nearly half of them in the capital of Tehran, since demonstrations began in mid-September, and there is a possibility that they could be put up for the death penalty, which
Absolutely,
is fucking
there is.
crazy.
It's disappointing, though, that the rest of the world can't come together, the UN can't come together and very publicly condemn and come down on the country of Iran.
They are, but it's just, I mean, there's only so much. I feel like what do you do? I guess I'll have to look in and see more about it. But yeah, it's just crazy.
I'm saying to the point that they feel like they cannot do this. To suggest that you're going to put, thousands of people to death for protesting, I don't know. That just doesn't check out for me. And the fact that this is really, I don't know, like I didn't see about this until you guys shared it with me. So I don't know how this is not more prevalent. And maybe
one reason I think a big reason why is Islamophobia. I think that's a big part, is that you see people from that part of the world from an American perspective, or really from a European perspective, and you don't see the value. And this type of thing, as soon as Ukraine happened, the eyes of the world went. What's happening in other spots in the world is absolutely as horrific, if not more so, than Ukraine. Like what Al-Shabaab is doing in parts of Africa, what Saudi Arabia and really the United States by proxy is doing in Yemen is fucking horrific. Like those people have gone through essentially a genocide in Yemen, and we don't talk about it at all because it's not really white people.
I think
it's
in
uncomfortable.
This case,
Yeah.
In this case, it's picking up steam because social media, thank God, they're getting their clips on TikTok and out in social media, and they're going mega viral. Iranian Americans are pushing it and getting celebrities. Like, I'm like, even if these actresses that I'm seeing, even if the news is a little off, it's getting people riled up, which I don't care if the numbers are way off right now. Like, it got me reading it again and being like, holy fuck, like, what do we do?
And I shouldn't have said worse. Atrocities are atrocities, and I don't think we should compare them. But there's other atrocities that are on par with what's happening with Ukraine, and it's awful. Like, all across the world, people are in dire situations because their government. And this shows 100%, it makes the point that we try to make all the time. It's never the people of the government. Like the Russians, they have nothing to do, essentially, with what they decided to do in Ukraine. The Iranians, they have no control over what their ayatollahs are doing right now. And they all want to have, like, not all, but a lot of them are passionate about this and want to return to where they were. And it's really one of those things, maybe for the first time, it's make Iran great again, because in the 70s they were a good country.
I wouldn't say it that way, but I understand what you're saying. I would, but I would say, like, this, Iranians are commenting on this and saying, when Iran says they're trying to squash the rebels to keep peace in their country, they mean the free thinkers, artists, musicians, actors, the youth, like.
And they're using those loaded words like, call them the caliphate.
Doctors, the educated, and they're making those people the enemies, and they're going to try and wipe them out and squash them down and keep them out. So anyway, just following that. Anyway, I saw the 15,000 and my jaw dropped today. And I was like, holy fuck, and just been trying to suss out what's the full story is going there, but obviously ongoing, and holy shit. Hopefully, just incredibly brave people is all.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's do something completely different for round number 4, because you're going to need
Kittens palette.
You are definitely going to need a palate cleanser after that subject, and we got just the one for you because, my friends, it involves pussies. What do we got, Kate?
Yeah, first, can we just show the image for those who are watching on YouTube?
Top 5, I think, military-related cute pictures, maybe ever.
It's a kitten inside a fighter jet.
And an adorable little kitten.
Yeah, so the Hickory Aviation Museum recently had a litter of surprise visitors. In October, an employee at the North Carolina Museum investigated strange noises coming from one of the museum's planes and found the source to be a cat and her 5 kittens, per the Charlotte Observer. Not only do we battle rain, wind, heat, wasps, and birds, one of the cats that roams the airport near the terminal decided to have kittens in the T-33 Shooting Star.
First of all, let me just say, if you're battling rain, wind, heat, wasp, birds, and cats, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, absolutely. If anyone is looking for a kitten, please stop by during museum hours and inquire. This is why we need to build the museum to get our aircraft indoors.
If you adopted one of those cats and you didn't name them both Goose and Maverick, you fucked up.
Yeah, you fucked up. After finding the felines, the museum learned that the cat had given birth to the kittens inside the historic Lockheed T-33 Shooting Star and hid them in the plane until they were big enough to be spotted through the cockpit. So truly, it wasn't like someone put the cat in that cockpit for a cute picture. Somebody was walking the museum grounds, looked up at this plane, and was like, oh my God, there's a kitten flying that plane.
And you know that cat, if it's living in a museum, they're not like trying to take care of it and give it food. That cat's got to be a mouser, right?
Oh,
like how
absolutely.
else do you have the lactation ability to feed all your babies?
Yeah. The Hickory Aviation Museum didn't kick the cats out, according to the Observer. Instead, the facility worked to find a rescue that could adopt the animals. All the felines from the Shooting Star plane will be available for adoption once the kittens are around 8 weeks old. Yeah,
And
I
that's
just love
basically the
that.
story,
The
yeah.
Hickory Aviation Museum with kittens in the cockpit. I just thought that was really, really adorable.
I bet that because I would imagine the guy who found it was probably like the nighttime cleaning crew type of person.
Yeah.
Like when everything's calmed down because the cats feel like they can come out and play like the National Museum.
Yeah.
Night at the Museum.
Night at the Museum, yeah.
I think that's basically what happened. And if you are that cleaning person and you're used to being there by yourself and you're just listening to your music or whatever and buffing the deck or whatever that you're doing.
You maybe just hit a little bit of a doink on your break.
Yeah.
You're like,
and the
"Wait,
cat
what?"
pops up. How happy would you be?
Extremely.
I would be so pumped.
cute.
Yeah,
So
like,
cute.
come here, you little cutie patootie.
Love
What
a
are you
kitten.
doing in that cockpit, you little rascal?
It's been
Absolute
too long
rascal.
since I've held a kitten. Can we do a kitten episode where we just bring in a box of
When the
kittens?
whole squad has a kitten,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Issue you one from Sif. Let's go on to save rounds and alibis. Cons, we will start with you. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Unfortunately, life doesn't come with a user manual, so when it's not looking for you, it's normal to feel stuck. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, or becoming a parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out what the cause is of challenging emotions and learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. Now, one of the things, because I'm pretty open about my therapy that I go to, where I talk about being a fucking crazy person. I got all kinds of stuff going on. Not really a crazy person, but BetterHelp has made me realize that there's certain things in my life that I didn't even realize was going on that was connected to my childhood, one of which is I like to be at home all the time. And my therapist is like, maybe that's because your dad was gone all the time in the Navy. You feel like you have to be with your family all the time when they don't even really need you there all the time. They only need you sometime. As the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp.com has helped match 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. If things aren't clicking, you can always switch to a new therapist anytime. It's a relationship. Like if you don't have a therapist that clicks with you, move on to the next one. And it couldn't be simpler with BetterHelp. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searches for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% on your first month at betterhelp.com/0. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/0.
Yeah, no, again, just pretty cool. Sit down with Coach K.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's reached a level of, I guess, fame is a good way to put it. That, you know, to have a conversation with someone who's accomplished as much as he has is very, very interesting. And
I'd say he's an American icon, really.
Let's
like
say what it is. I think, Cons, we've done the 4 people you could go eat with, and I think Coach K was on your list.
I think he was. Yeah, he was definitely one of my white whale guests. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, hey, this would be great for the show. So I was just really grateful again. So that was very cool. I have an idea
Okay.
for a business for myself. I can pay you guys a fee if you bring me customers, but I was recently a cousin of mine has recently transitioned out of college and into the workforce, and he just needed some guidance in terms of wearing like business casual and like where to shop for these things. No free ads. Not going to say any companies. How to wear certain things.
Kohl's.
Robot.
I think even more so, folks who transition from the military into the civilian world need help more than anybody. What if I did a consulting firm that strictly taught people how to dress for the civilian world?
I think that's terrible.
Why?
Because most enlisted people aren't going to...
That's a wild. What do you mean we need help?
Yeah.
Like we're crushing it.
That's
You know what
ugly.
the worst was? I used to go to these job fairs where I know like the intention was good, but they'd have clothing racks of suits and business dresses for women that like, it's like, here you dumb idiot vet who doesn't know how to dress, take these donated suits and clothes. And they'd be like 1980s shoulder
Looking
pad,
like,
well, that's
like,
Nathan,
I
looking
know
like
the
Nathan for you.
intention was good, but yeah, I was looking like a Nathan for you head ass, and I was like, I'm okay.
Well, I'm not
Think
forcing
so.
it on anyone. I'm
But-
just offering a service. If you'd like some help, you've never worn a suit, you've never worn business casual, you don't know like, oh, does this shirt go with these pants, and how does a suit supposed to fit, and just the basics.
I remember I went to a women's one once here in New York City, way back in the day when I first got out, and they were like, there was like multiple things, like multiple rooms where you could go learn about building a resume, you could go learn about, you know, confidence or whatever, or you could go learn how to do makeup, and they would give you a free little makeup kit. And I was like, I know where I should go, but I went right into the makeup room. I was like, this is fucking sick. Yeah, teach me how to do a cat eye. Yeah.
I think your idea could work if the demographics of the military weren't so averse to, one, admitting they don't know something,
Yeah.
and two, thinking they all look like hot shit. Like,
Yeah.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to find people that are like, I have no idea how to dress.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if you're out there and you have no idea. But also, I've gotten a lot of DMs and emails from people who have asked about this sort of thing.
Yeah, well, if you
Okay.
want that idea, just go ahead and email cons@barstoolsports.com and let them know when you want to start this whole thing.
Sure. What do I charge? What do you think is
I think
an actual price
for
that I
me,
can charge?
if I was a man of honor like you, I would offer it as a free service to the veterans out there. But if you want to make
Right,
a
if
buck
you wanna
off their
be
backs,
selfish,
that's on you.
that's really
Nick, what about
sad.
you? Save round.
But how about this? How about I don't charge? Hold on. How about I don't charge veterans anything, but I get paid from the companies that I refer them to and use this code, and the
Alright.
companies pay me to bring people, bring business.
So you
to
mean
them.
fucking ad reads? That's what we do. We have
Kind
Rollback
of.
and
He
Birds.
does crush
Sort of.
business casual.
Sort of.
You mean Stitch Fix? You're talking
Somewhat,
like a
yeah.
Stitch
Listen,
Fix
and
guy.
before I give them that, I would like to talk for about 15 minutes to an hour about certain things.
All right, so that's just an idea I've been mulling. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
I need some
We'll see what
workshopping
happens.
still.
Yeah.
Nick, what about you, pal?
Yeah, if you're any of those people that have reached out to cons.
Again, at
for-
cons@barstoolsports.com.
I would also like proof of your outreach, so you can DM me and I'll put it
Yeah,
on
we
the
need to,
show. If you
good
wanna
call,
re-
Nick.
if
We
you-
need to see if that's an
If
integrity
you want to
violation.
reveal yourself, I'll let you know. I'll let the world know who you are. Save rounds for me. We have merch at the Barstool store. We just have new hoodies out. We have the glasses. We've got a lot of stuff. That
Come
you
pop in
guys
front of
should
the
check out. Yeah.
in front of the camera, Nick. We
There
have
we
this
go.
good initiative, bad judgment. If you've been listening to the show for a long time, we say that phrase constantly. We
And
have
they say
a
it's
beautiful.
constantly in the military. That's
Yeah,
where, that's
we
why
have
we say
a.
it.
It's olive drab shirt with some tan writings on it. You can. Big Cat has said that he loves it. So has PFT. You can wear it without being in the military
Oh,
because
speaking
we don't.
of breaking news. I just got a DM from Jeff Skogel over at Task and Purpose. Many, many months ago, we talked about a group of Marines at the San Diego Zoo who shut down the entire gondola ride system, stranding hundreds of people in the air
Yes.
because they were rocking their gondola too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy, their case has been dismissed.
Oh,
They're
way to go, justices,
Good
sir.
initiative, bad judgment.
Yeah, way to go,
but
Devil
it's fine,
Dogs,
and now
yeah.
they're good. Congratulations,
I hope
Devil
that that's what
Dogs.
the judge said. The circuit court judge. I hope he was like, you know
Yeah.
what? That's just a little bit of good initiative, bad judgment, goofy.
Good initiative, bad judgment due to no future court dates. They have to pay a restitution and avoid rocking gondolas again for 6 months.
Don't you ever rock another gondola
don't you
in
rock-
your natural fucking life.
I will say
Fellas.
though, if you are not part of that group and you're in a gondola that they're rocking, that's probably pretty scary for some people.
Oh, I'd be furious.
Yeah, that's not fun.
It
I'd be
took San
furious.
Diego firefighters and zoo employees 2 hours to rescue over 100 people from their gondolas.
Yeah.
Dude,
Anyway.
they they should owe restitution to all those people that
I
ruined their
just picture
day.
me and my son being stuck in a gondola for 2 hours, and it would be a little rough.
Because you had to have paid to get in there,
But
like
if I
$200
knew it was
to get into
Marines
Disney.
who did it, I also know. Sorry, 4 Marines in a gondola. I don't care if they're colonels; they're gonna rock the gondola.
So Kate comes down off the
That's
gondola and she looks at the guys and she's just like, "Kill."
Yeah.
Yut.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
What's your save round, Kate?
That was very exciting. That's really all I've got. Again, just blown away by everyone who donated to the Gladwin Vets VFW.
Big picture, how did you think things went on Veterans Day there at the Barstool Invitational?
Thought it was awesome.
Great.
Had a great time. I always love meeting Met ZBT listeners. Some of the Flyers, Warriors hockey people were there, who are disabled veterans. You can, if you're interested in playing ice hockey across the country, they got teams.
I think the best part about that is they say, we don't care if you've never touched a hockey stick before. You
Yeah,
want to
they
do
don't
it?
care.
Come on in. We'll find you a team.
They have like super adaptive leagues too, whatever. It's awesome. But no, it's always awesome meeting people. And I had a ton of fun. It was great to be in Philly. Other than that, that's all I got.
All right. I have a pretty big one, actually. When I've talked about it, and he's actually been on the show. His name is Sean Carter, Corporal Sean Carter.
Yep.
And he was one of my Marines at Quantico. And I've always said that was my biggest leadership failure of all time, is that I didn't do enough for Carter when he was leaving the Marine Corps. So I want to read a letter that he recently got from the United States Naval Service. Even though he's a Marine. On 27 April 2009, the petitioner was notified of the intention of administrative separation proceedings by reason of homosexual conduct, based on the statements made by the witness criminal investigation agents on the petitioner's MySpace. Petitioner's MySpace stated his sexual orientation was gay. Subsequently, the petitioner elected his right to counsel and waived his hearing. So eventually, Carter was kicked out for being gay, essentially, is what happened. Finally, that was dated April 2009. Finally, his discharge has been upgraded to an honorable discharge. His reentry for separation has been approved. He's not going to do that, obviously, but the ability and the way that he texted me when it was all over, man, it like legitimately brought chills to me, like how I felt. He screenshotted or took a picture of this letter. And the only thing that he said after, like the only text that was attached to that was finally. And I said, that's fucking awesome, dude. Do you mind if I talk about this? He said, I don't mind at all, bro. I'm so happy, relieved, and I don't have to show my DD-214 with homosexual admission to jobs anymore. So much depression will be lifted when I have this in hand. Thank you for all the things that you've done. And yes, I agree, this is a step in the right direction for the US DoD. I've been shaking for 25 minutes now, just holding that piece of paper. Amazing. But that's obviously good information, but also sad because it took so long to get there. One great thing that we didn't talk about with the Barstool Invitational is Big Cat's unbelievable national anthem performance. Everybody lost it.
Chills.
I actually, in the middle, when I was standing at the position of attention during it, I actually looked back at Dan and was kind of like, holy shit. The next day, my wife texted me and she was like, I just saw Big Cat's thing on Twitter. What an unbelievable voice. I thought when he goes, listen, we're going to put it in and the normal Sound of the Treat music is not going to be there. Listen to his And the Home of the Brave. It is unbelievable. Here's Big Cat with a national anthem taking us out of the show.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star star-spangled